Hello, good morning. Welcome to the studio at Two Girls Treasure. How are you today? It is a balmy 74-ish degrees in South Carolina. The doors are wide open and it is amazingly beautiful. A little overcast, that's okay. It's nice and cool. Well, that's the time of the day, the time of the year when we start thinking about the fact that long pants are coming. Long pants are inevitable. It's been hot as all get out and it's going to cool off. And we're going to want our long pants on, and when we do, we should have them more stylish than ever. Are we going to spend $200, $300 on a pair of designer decorated? Oh no. We're going to do it ourselves. We have all the tools, all the materials, the creative genius amongst us to make something fabulous. So let's kick off this last week of July. Can you believe it? The last week of July with stamping and upcycling our jeans and t-shirts. How would we do this? I'm so glad you asked. Let me show you. When we first received Iron Orchid Design stamps eons ago, like 10 forevers ago it feels like, the first thing I did was stamp a pair of my jeans. That's paint. And that's not paint by accident. That might be. But this was not. Now, did I do it right? No, absolutely not. Did I do it well? I did. You can almost still see the roses right here. But eons of years later, we're going to do it again. I'm not real sure if this particular pair of jeans is still wearable, but this particular pair of jeans was usable for this week, and I'm really excited about it. This is a combination of paint over here and ink right here. You can hear the difference. Now, there's a way to do this, and there's a way not to. There's a way this will work, and there's a way this will wash off. So let's take a look at some different materials that you can stamp and dye and upcycle into the most beautiful things. Let's get started. I'm going to tip you down. So you saw my jeans, and I'll show you one more time because I absolutely adore these. I took elements from the brand new Charlotte stamp. This is ink, and all I did was stamp. I inked my butterfly in red in the tomato, and then I came back around and inked in my deep ocean, and I stamped it, I masked it, and then I did the very same with the roses. I stamped the edges in new grass and stamped along this edge with tomato. And after I masked my butterfly and I stamped my roses, the roses took the back seat to the butterfly, and it went on very nicely. Now, when you're stamping fabrics, you want to stamp your all-natural fibers. I reread the detailed instructions, and you kind of have to dig for them. I'll see if I can't find them and put them in their place on our website. But when you stamp with inks, you want to leave it alone for 24 hours. Then you want to heat set it before you ever wash it. And I would probably suggest, once you do, if you're doing a pair of jeans and you can, turn them inside out. Turn them inside out so that way you can protect this ink. Now, this is paint. And I did the same thing in reverse. I stamped the roses first, then I stamped the butterfly, but I did these with our Rethunk Junk paints and a brayer. A nice thin load of paint gives a really nice impression. Now, you have to be quick when you're stamping with paint because paint dries very quickly. And an alcohol wipe or your prep, definitely keep a bucket of warm soapy water to drop your stamps into. Do not let the paint dry on your stamps. It'll come off, but it's hard to get off. So we're going to let this saturate for 24 hours, and then we'll heat set it as well. When you heat set, just simply take a towel or a terry cloth, lay it over the top, and run back and forth over it with your iron for 2 or 3 minutes. That really binds your ink and your paint into the fibers. I also used, just so you know, our brand new Pixie Dust resin metals to highlight. I don't know if you can see the shimmer in them, but in person you can. There you go. You can see that little shimmer. Oh yeah, I put metallics on my butterfly and my roses because they're beautiful. Last week I paint dyed these 2 pieces of duck cloth. I wanted them dyed so I could show you, once you dye them, you still can stamp over it, but you don't have as strong of an image. Now, 2 different things. One, this is a very open weave cotton fabric. And the second thing is, I stamped over a richer finish. So that's kind of a dark blue. Of course, watered down, it has a medium blue look to it. When I stamped over this one, it's there. It's not as vivid as I would have loved, but it still looks good. I used the top edge so that I could put this on my apron, and now I have pockets. All I need to do is sew. Now, I took another piece of fabric. This is linen, and I wanted to show you the differences here. So when I stamped on the linen with ink, it was very nice. When I stamped on the linen with paint, you can't even see it. It's there, but it's not. I did use white. I did. Then I used our paints. I variegated them with the brayer and stamped on it, and it looks fabulous. So again, these can be heat set before they're washed, but they need to sit for 24 hours. And this is just a sampler. That's all I wanted to do, was sample this for you so you could actually see the differences in the materials and how they react. This is a blank sheet. We'll just toss that over there. Now I have this fabulous cotton zippered bag. This is a great travel bag. I want to stamp on this. One of my biggest issues with stamping is that I want to use them all, and then I want to use none. I want to lay out the most fabulously amazing pattern and scene, but then I'm afraid once I do, I'll want to do something different. So I don't do anything. It's just like the transfers. We get frozen, don't we? And then we just shut down. Well, let's not shut down. Let's actually do something. So I'll get out my Charlotte stamps, because I'm obsessed with some of the looks that I see with this, and I'm interested in putting pieces of it together. So we'll take the chance on this bag, and we'll do some Charlotte stamping with it. And whatever it turns out to be will be okay. Now, I don't know if you've explored the elements of this stamp set yet. Let me lay my cloth down so you can see them really well. I need something behind it so you can so it really shows up. I'll lay this down. This Charlotte stamp is fantastic. You have your roses. You know I love roses. You have your teacup with florals, and that is so classic. But you also have a gear set and a trio of paintbrushes, a ladybug that Scott said looked like a tick once I stamped it. Good morning, Brenna. You have your butterfly, a spoon for your tea, a bird, a bee, a fork, and then down here you have 2 calligraphy pens. And then you have Charlotte, and she is lovely, absolutely lovely. If we were to use this stamp set, how would you lay this out? What would you do? Because if we do a thing with Charlotte, she is going to take up the entirety of the bag. But I love the teacup. I love the teacup. And I really want to stamp something that says, this is my cup of tea. So to do that, not only do we have Charlotte, but we have our fantastic Apothecary Labels stamp set. This is the smaller set of typography and apothecary type labels. This is such a versatile set. You literally have 4 different typographies on 2 different sheets, and then you have 2 different sets of apothecary labels and framework. These are fabulous. So today, let's upcycle this bag into our cup of tea. Not that we don't love Charlotte, because we do, but because we want something fabulously different. And I'm going to grab a thin mount real quick because we need this. Clearly I love and use my thin mounts a lot. Alright, so in order to stamp your surface, get your thin mount out. It has your grid lines, it has your arc lines, so if you wanted to arc your lettering, or if you wanted to tip something on an arc, you can see exactly where your placement is correct. In this instance, you know I'm going to put it on straight-ish. So I'm going to lay it down and just sort of from my center, I have 4 full blocks in a piece. Actually, I have 5. And I have 5 on this side. I'm a little bit over. There we go. And then my center line, and then my bottom line, which keeps everything in check. So now that we're straight-ish, when you ink it or bray it with your paint or bray it with your ink, now you can lay it down and you can see exactly where it goes. You can see where it's not attached and where it is. So let me peel it back up and make sure it attached itself just like we need it, because if it's not secure to the thin mount and you ink this and flip it over and it falls down, wherever it falls is where it's going to make a mess. So try to make sure you've got that on there securely. What else are we going to go with? Well, you know I'm going with some roses here. You just know it to be a fact before I even get started. So we'll lay some roses closer to the bottom edge. And I'm going to do symmetry. I want it to be the same on both sides. So let me use my arc line to create just the placement I need. And I'm still going to stay right there at that bottom edge. And once I get done here, that'll put my roses on one side. I can come back and stamp my roses on the other. Now then, what else are we putting with it? Besides the roses, and I do love the bumblebee, but let's go ahead and lay out some of our typography. And now we just have to choose which ones fit and look the best. That's not easy either because we have 4 different. But I want something that's clean so that once I stamp it, it's very readable. And I think I'll take this one. And we'll just lay our letters in. And it's not going to be easy to, when I start, to know exactly how to measure out my spacing. So I'll just lay my letters in. This. Now I'm going to use this on this side. That just doesn't look right, y'all. I'm upside down and backwards. So when I lay this in, I need an IS right here. And since I don't have a second one, I'm going to compensate with something that's similarly sized and shaped. So we're going with the exclamation point. And I would venture that even though it's not the same shape, the P is the same size. So we'll just use these as placeholders. This is my cup of tea. Now, I'm almost to the edge. When I lay this down, I'm not going to have enough room for cup of tea. So I'm probably going to have to ease these over a little bit. Or just leave it. But I want to spell it out because sometimes you can use the imagery, and as we all know, the lessons learned over the weekend, imagery can be misinterpreted so quickly. Let's not create a firestorm over a cup of tea. Let's just go ahead and move these on down. This is my, and we still may have to move these again. Why is it so tedious? Well, because we're creating something that doesn't exist. And unless you know exactly what size every one of these letters actually is, you're gonna have to just sort of pair it out. And you might not put on here, this is your cup of tea. And I'm gonna have to borrow the P from over there, my cup. And I'll straighten that out. Now we have plenty of room. My cup of, and let's go ahead and pull the T so that we can lay that in. And there's the E. And now all we need is the A. A little tedious, but we're spelling out a pretty big sentence. And let's flip it to see what this is going to look like. This is my cup, and the P is still backwards. The F is still backwards. We'll fix it. And the E is backwards. For love's sake, how do I fix that? Well, we turn it over. Just like that. And then it's right. The F is backwards. My cup of, yeah, it's completely backwards. Now, how do I fix that? Interesting. We'll get to that. It's an illusion because I'm upside down backwards, y'all. That's not easy to work with. We'll fix it. We'll fix it. This, we'll have to take the exclamation point out when we get ready to stamp. My cup of tea. I love it. So let's ink it. Once you feel like you have it correct, not perfect, but correct, let's go ahead and get the inks out. Ink has a little bit more open time than paint. So if you're getting ready to ink something, you've got time to work with it. I'm going to grab a piece of paper and we're going to stamp this before we stamp this. Let's cut a sheet. And there we go. Just something we can practice on before we fully commit. If you're not sure, then before you stamp your surface, just stamp a piece of paper. It'll work just fine. I'm going to go ahead and ink it in one color. I have my Deep Ocean. Ocean's Deep. This is Ocean's Deep. If this was Rethunk Junk paint, it would be Deep Ocean. Just gently, lightly. Now, have your baby wipe or your alcohol wipe handy, because no matter how careful you are, or if you're careless, because sometimes I am in a hurry, you're going to get ink in places where you don't really want it. Just go in and wipe it back. And I'll show you, if you don't wipe it back, if you've got too much ink, once you turn it over, commit to it. Anchor it with one hand, and then gently run your fingers over the imagery so as to impress the ink onto your surface. Now, this is paper, so it's going to take the ink really well. When you're doing a fabric, you're going to want to make sure of two things. One, that you have your stamps nice and juicy, a good bit of ink on the surfaces. And the second thing you want to be sure of is that you take extra time to ink this. I have my lettering, I have my whole sentence completely backwards, y'all. That's why it's not working for me. That is hysterical, and this is why a piece of paper first is a good idea. It's backwards. It really is. All right. Can we pretend we didn't do that? But look how lovely the teacup, saucer, and the roses turned out. So once I lay this on correctly, it'll be fine. It'll be just fine. Let's clean this off. And backwards upside down is clearly not my forte. That's so funny. So let's straighten this up. And then we'll do our lettering again. Oh, good times. Good times in the studio. If you want to come help me straighten out my nonsense, please come by the studio this weekend. Friday evening, Saturday morning. This will be our last doubleheader of the month, and we're rolling out of July into August. And we have a whole new calendar up on the website and on Facebook, so take a look. Find what you're interested in. I'm just going to lay these off. We will straighten out the lettering shortly. There we go. Right over there. Out of the way. Not causing a problem. But we will do this workshop, this upcycling fabric workshop, Friday evening, Saturday morning. Make sure you bring a pair of jeans or a t-shirt. If you know me at all, you know I have my studio shirt ready to stamp. And we have company in the house. I have my studio shirt ready to stamp, so I can't wait to do that project. And I have a fabulous pair of jeans that I'm going to work on this week. So if you would like to join me in the studio, RSVP on the website. We will get together Friday from 5:30 to 7:30, and then we will get together again Saturday morning. I'm going to just tap some tomato in here because you know I like a variegated finish. Good morning! And with that, let's turn our bag over. Before we lay our thin mount down completely, let's make sure we have our thin mount lined up where we intend. Once I lay it down, whether it's straight, crooked, doesn't matter, it is committed. Lay it in there and take extra time. Run your fingers over it extra because you're going into fabric, and this is a densely woven but very heavy canvas. So make sure you have enough ink to do the job, and then make sure that once you have enough ink to do the job, that you give it the time it needs to do the job. Do you have to rub hard? Absolutely not, but just rub over it repeatedly. Unlike stamping on the paper, your fabric needs a little bit more time to absorb the moisture of the ink so that it's on there correctly. So you have a great impression, so you have a very vivid image like you wanted. One more once over on the teacup. Take it up all at one time. And now we have a beautiful start to our fantastic 31 brand canvas bag, and this will be our cup of tea. And see how that variegation worked well on the teacup and on the roses. I'll be glad to show you how to do this. We'll practice it this week, and then we will put it into action on Friday evening, Saturday morning. Just RSVP for the family fun night or the Saturday morning studio session. Bring your favorite pair of jeans, a cotton t-shirt, or, I don't have it with me, I left it in the office, the beautiful linen button-downs that you see me wear when it gets cold outside and I'm not feeling my aprons. Because those are great shirts. I can get them for you. If you know your size, let me know. I have mine extra big, so it's extra big and it covers me well, and I can paint in it and it hangs down low because you know I'm going to get paint on me. In the meantime, practice your stamping. Practice on a piece of paper. Find a scrap piece of fabric to work with, and tomorrow morning we'll do it a little differently, and I'll show you another way that you can stamp and create beautiful designs on your fabric, on your curtains. You can make your own. On your jean jackets, your jeans, your t-shirts, your button-downs. Remember, natural fibers or just a light blend, but your man-made fibers have a tendency not to hold the ink, so we're really not going to play with those this week. I'm Diane Pruitt. We are in the studio at Two Girls Treasure. I want to thank you for spending time with me this morning. Have a blessed and wonderful day. Take care of yourselves and each other. I'll see you right back here in the studio at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we'll do some more stamping stuff. Y'all take care now. Bye.